The $1 surprise. Jake Carter was just a regular guy living on the edge of New Houston, a dusty town on Mars' moon. Once a space miner, now just a man with too much time and too little money. He liked walking through junk markets, hoping to find something interesting, maybe even valuable. One hot afternoon, Jake walked past an old street vendor's stall. The table was full of rusted gadgets, broken robot parts, and odd alien souvenirs. Nothing looked special, until his eyes landed on a small metallic box, half buried under a pile of wires. The box was smooth, dark silver, and about the size of a lunch container. It had strange blue lines running across it, glowing very faintly. Jake picked it up. It felt heavy and cold. "How much for this?" he asked the vendor, a wrinkled old man with goggles and a cigar. "That? Just one credit, or call it $1 if you're old school." The man chuckled. "Came from a crashed freighter. Total junk." Jake smiled. $1. Deal. He didn't know it then, but that $1 box would change everything. Back in his small workshop, Jake placed the box on his table. His dog, Rusty, a cyber-repaired husky mix, growled softly and backed away. "Relax, Rusty," Jake said, patting his head. "It's just an old box." He examined it closely. No buttons, no openings, just smooth metal and those glowing blue lines. He touched one of the lines, and something clicked. Suddenly, the lights in his room flickered. The table vibrated slightly. Rusty barked, tail low. The box began to hum. Jake stepped back as the top of the box slid open, releasing a thin mist. Inside were 3 strange oval-shaped pods, each the size of a human head. They were made of glass and metal, and they gave off a soft, steady glow. What in the stars? Each pod had symbols on it. Alien language, definitely not human. The first pod had a soft green pulse, the second blinked red, and the third was completely dark. Jake reached for the red one. It was warm. Suddenly, a small red light blinked from under the lid of the box. A strange voice echoed in the room, speaking in a deep robotic alien language. Jake didn't understand the words, but the tone sounded like a warning. "Rusty, I think we bought something. Alive." Jake knew he wasn't smart enough to handle alien tech on his own, so he grabbed his comm and called the only person he trusted with weird things. Lena Torres, his old friend and a tech specialist who once worked for a galactic research company. "Jake, it's midnight," she answered, sleepy and annoyed. "I need you to see something." "It's urgent," Jake said. "I think I found alien pods." There was a long silence. Then she sighed. "You had me at alien. I'll be there in 10. Lena arrived in a black hoverbike, wearing a thick coat over her pajamas. When she saw the pods, she froze. "Jake, these aren't just pods. These are hibernation chambers. This tech is thousands of years ahead of us." "No kidding. One of them is glowing red." Lena pulled out a scanner from her bag and pointed it at the pods. Her eyes widened as she read the data. "There's a living being inside this one. I'm getting life signs." Jake's face turned pale. "A living alien. In my garage." Lena nodded slowly. "Yes. And it's not just sleeping. It's waking up." As she spoke, the pod with the red light made a soft beeping sound. The temperature dropped slightly. The pod started releasing cold vapor. The symbols on the pod glowed bright red. The glass became transparent. Inside was a figure, a woman with pale blue skin, long silver hair floating in fluid, and armor that looked both beautiful and deadly. Her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful, but powerful. Lena whispered, "Jake, what did you bring home?" Jake swallowed hard. "A $1 surprise." Suddenly, the alien's fingers twitched. The room fell silent, except for the slow beep, beep, beep of the pod. Rusty whined and backed into the corner. Jake stared at the figure inside. heart pounding. He had no idea what was coming next. The sleeping beauties. The alien woman inside the pod was still, her eyes closed, floating inside the glowing fluid. The red light above her slowly faded to orange, then yellow. The color shift made Lena tense. "That's a startup sequence," she whispered. "She's waking up." Jake stood back, keeping his hand on Rusty's collar. The dog growled softly, ears low, but didn't bark. Something deep in his instincts warned him. This creature wasn't human. The glass covering hissed with pressure as micro-locks began to click open. Steam spilled out from the edges. "Do we shut it?" Jake asked nervously. Lena looked at her scanner. "No shutdown command. This thing is on an automatic cycle now. Even if we pull the power, it's got its own internal battery. The system wants her awake." Jake took a slow breath. "Okay then. We meet our guest." The pod released a soft, final click. The glass cover lifted slowly, revealing the full form of the alien woman. She wasn't just alien. She was regal, like something out of an ancient space legend. Her silver armor shimmered with faint light, molded to her tall, athletic frame. Symbols glowed softly along the sides of her chest plate. She fell forward, weak, her body limp. Jake rushed to catch her before she hit the ground. "Careful," Lena shouted. "I got her," Jake said, cradling her gently. Her skin was cool, but not cold. Her body trembled. Then suddenly, her hand shot up and gripped Jake's throat. Her fingers were strong, too strong for someone just waking up. Her eyes flew open. They were violet, deep, glowing, full of confusion and fear. "Where am I?" she whispered in a broken accent. Her voice had a strange musical quality to it, like a machine speaking through a harp. Jake coughed. "It's okay. You're safe." She looked around quickly, then at Lena, then back at Jake. Slowly, she released his throat. Her body sagged again. "I am alive," she said weakly. "Yes," Lena said, stepping closer but keeping her hands up. "You've been asleep for a very long time. You're on Mars moon. The year is 2749. The alien blinked slowly. "Mars. Earth system. This cannot be. We were not headed here." Jake helped her sit down. She looked around the workshop like a lost soldier waking up in the wrong war. "I am Zeria, Royal Sentinel of the House of Arthelion, defender of the last gate." Her voice was low and slow, as if remembering each word carefully. Jake and Lena exchanged glances. The names meant nothing to them, but they sounded important. "Why were you in the box?" Jake asked. Zeria closed her eyes for a moment. "Emergency protocol. Last battle lost. We were placed in cryo chambers to protect the royal code. I was not supposed to wake until safe signal received." Lena leaned forward. "There are 2 more chambers in that box. Do you know who's inside them?" Zeria opened her eyes and looked at the remaining pods. Her face suddenly tightened with fear. "You opened this one first." Jake nodded. Zeria shook her head. No, that was not the order. She pointed to the green light pod. "She was meant to wake first. She is the guide. I am the shield. The last. She must not awaken. Not until." Her words trailed off. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Jake caught her again. "Take it easy," he said. "You're safe now." Zeria looked up at him. For a moment, her glowing eyes studied his face closely. "You have the mark." Jake blinked. "What?" She reached out and touched his right hand. A faint symbol, the same as the glowing lines on the pod, flickered on his skin. Jake hadn't noticed it before. "The seal recognizes you," she said. "You carry the imprint of the ancient key. The box shows you." Jake pulled his hand back. "I didn't sign up for this." Lena stepped closer, her voice serious now. "Zeria, you said you were a defender. Defender of what?" Zaria looked at both of them with tired eyes, of something that must never return. Something locked in the last pod. Jake stared at the dark pod. It hadn't moved. No lights, no sound. "What's in there?" he asked softly. Zaria's voice dropped into a whisper. "A queen. Banished. Dangerous. Not born to protect. Born to conquer." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Suddenly, Rusty barked sharply. Everyone turned. The green light pod, the one Zaria called the guide, had just beeped. Its light turned yellow. It was waking up too. "Should we stop it?" Jake asked. Zaria shook her head. "No, she will know what to do." Lena's scanner began flashing rapidly. "Oh no," she said. "This isn't just a wake-up call. These pods, they're sending a signal." Jake's voice cracked. "To who?" Zaria looked toward the stars, her face suddenly dark with dread. "To the ones who hunted us. If they hear this signal, they will come. Not just aliens, warriors." The green-lit pod began to hiss. Slowly, softly, the temperature in the room dropped again, like a cold breath was filling the air. The symbols across the second pod blinked in rhythmic pulses. Then a calm female voice spoke, not in English, but in a flowing alien language. Zaria closed her eyes and muttered a short phrase in the same tongue. Her posture straightened. Respect, fear, hope, all at once. Lena stepped back, watching nervously. "Another one's waking up." "Yes," Zaria said, her voice stronger now. "Her name is Velora. She was the advisor to the High Crown, a master of knowledge, codes, and truth. If she is waking, it means fate has moved, and time is shorter than we hoped." Jake looked between Zaria and the pod. "She's not like the one in the third pod, right? You said that one's dangerous." Zaria nodded. "Yes. Velora was the mind. I was the blade. But the third, she was the storm." The pod released a burst of white steam, followed by the faint sound of breathing. The figure inside was smaller than Zaria, slimmer. She had golden skin, long white hair floating in the fluid like threads of light, and glowing blue tattoos running across her cheeks. The chamber opened slowly. No sudden movements this time. The alien inside stepped out gracefully, her eyes already open, glowing like twin stars. She didn't fall. She didn't shake. She stood tall and calm, looked directly at Jake, and said in perfectly clear English, "You are not of the royal blood. Yet the pod accepts you. Curious." Jake blinked. "You speak English." Velora tilted her head. "I speak all tongues. Language is nothing more than patterns. You are unique." Zaria bowed slightly. "Velora, you woke without the signal. It is not yet time." Velora looked at her companion with calm eyes. "Time broke long ago. I followed the scent of change, and I found this human standing over you, marked by the code of Arthelion." Lena stared at them. "Okay, I'm sorry, but what is Arthelion?" Velora turned toward her. Arthelion was a planet of peace and power, a central hub in the old galaxy, before the firestorms, before the purging. Zaria spoke again, her voice heavy with old sorrow. "We lost everything. Our people, our sky, our queen. We were the last sent away to guard the secret, to guard her." She glanced at the third pod. The room fell silent. Jake took a slow step toward the final chamber, the one that hadn't moved yet. It still looked dormant, but something about it felt wrong. Unlike the other pods, this one had no light, no heartbeat, no sound. Just a dark, heavy presence. He turned to Velora. "Who is in there?" Velora's eyes lowered. Her name was once Naira, born from the same stars as us, but twisted, changed by war. She became something else. She stopped believing in peace. Lena asked, "So, she's a villain?" Zaria shook her head. "No. Worse. She's a queen with no crown, A warrior with no master. She believes in only one thing now: domination. Of all species. All worlds. Jake felt a chill. Then why is she in the pod? Why not destroy her? Valora answered, her voice cold. Because no one could. Not even the High Crown. The only choice was to seal her in an unbreakable cryo prison. And that prison now lies open to you. Jake backed away. You mean that thing could open on its own? No, Zuria said quickly. But if the signal from our pods reaches the wrong ears, others will come. And if they awaken her, she will remember everything. Suddenly, Rusty barked sharply again. This time, he didn't stop. Lena ran to the door and peeked out the window. Her face turned pale. Jake, something's coming. He rushed over and looked. Floating in the air above the junkyard was a small black craft, sleek, silent, with sharp curves and glowing red thrusters. Not human, not friendly. A large figure stepped out of the hovering craft and landed in the dirt without making a sound. It wore armor that shimmered black and crimson, with glowing red eyes inside its helmet. A hunter. No, something worse. A collector. Jake's voice dropped. We're not alone anymore. Valora's face hardened. The Void Seekers have come. Zeria stood, still weak but determined. They track royal energy. They harvest ancient DNA. They will take the pods. And her. Jake asked, what do we do? Valora looked him in the eye. We fight. Jake swallowed hard. I'm just a guy who fixes drones and buys junk for $1. Valora smiled slightly. Then let's show the galaxy what $1 is worth. Galactic secrets, wake up. The ground trembled softly as the armored figure stepped forward. His black boots crushed the dry sand underfoot. His helmet reflected the stars above, but there was no emotion behind the glowing red eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Zeria stood in front of the two pods like a shield, even though her knees still shook with weakness. Who is he? Jake whispered, standing beside her. Valora's voice was like ice. A void seeker. They were created after the fall of Arthelion. Half machine, half organic. Programmed to recover ancient power at any cost. The void seeker slowly raised his arm. A red light blinked on the wrist device. From the back of his suit, small mechanical wings unfolded with a metallic hiss. Lena swallowed hard. I think he wants the pods. Jake glanced at the third pod, the one that still hadn't opened. Does he know what's inside? Zeria didn't answer. Valora did. He doesn't care. They collect first. Think later. If they awaken her, the galaxy will bleed again. Rusty barked loudly in charge, but the Void Seeker raised one hand. A wave of invisible force lifted the dog off the ground and threw him back. Rusty whimpered, rolling onto his feet, hurt but alive. Jake's heart exploded with anger. You're gonna regret that. He grabbed a metal pipe from his workbench and stepped forward. Zeria grabbed his wrist. Don't. You will die in 1 second. Jake looked into her glowing eyes. Then give me something better. Valora moved quickly. She touched the mark on Jake's hand. The same mark that had appeared when he first opened the box. It began to glow. What are you doing? Jake asked. Unlocking your right, Valora said. The pod chose you. That means you carry the Arthelion bond. Jake felt a burning sensation up his arm, but it wasn't painful. It felt like something ancient was waking up inside him. His vision blurred, then sharpened again. He could feel the Seeker's presence, the energy of the pods, even Zeria's heartbeats. What just happened to me? Zeria stepped beside him. You are now linked to the royal energy system. It will help you survive. Maybe even fight. The Void Seeker raised his hand again, and a blast of red energy shot toward the group. Zeria jumped in front of it. The blast hit her armor and bounced back in a spray of blue sparks. She winced but didn't fall. Valora pulled a small round device from her armor and threw it on the ground. A shield of light burst upward, forming a glowing dome around them and the pods. "That will buy us 5 minutes," she said. Jake helped Zeria sit down. "You okay?" She nodded, breathing hard. "I've had worse. He's not a top-tier hunter, but he's fast and relentless." Lena moved closer to the third pod. "I don't like this. That dark pod. It's reacting." They all turned. The third pod, the one that was silent, had started to pulse. A slow, steady heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. Zeria gasped. No, she mustn't wake up like this. Jake approached it carefully. "Can we stop it?" Valora shook her head. "It's not waking because of the system. It's waking because of her own mind. She feels the danger. She wants to break free." Jake whispered, "Naira." Suddenly, the pod spoke, not with sound, but with thought. A voice echoed inside their minds. "Who dares threaten my sleep again?" The words were smooth, sharp, like velvet over a blade. Everyone stood frozen. Zeria gritted her teeth. "She's projecting through the seal. This is bad. I smell fear. I hear chaos. I taste war." "Delicious," the voice said. Jake shook his head. "She enjoys this." Valora replied quietly. "She was born in war. She never knew peace." The Void Seeker outside was preparing something, his arms extended, both glowing now. Multiple drones flew from his shoulders, aiming at the shield dome. Jake turned to Zeria. "We can't hold this line forever. What's the plan?" Zeria looked at the third pod, then at him. "There's one way. You can try to command the pod, not open it, but silence it. Your bond might be strong enough to reach her." "Reach her?" Jake frowned. "You want me to talk to a warrior queen trapped in a pod for thousands of years?" "Yes," Valora said, "because you are the only voice she hasn't ignored yet." Jake walked to the pod. The heartbeat inside matched his own. He placed his hand on the cold surface. "Naira," he said softly, "I don't know who you were, or what you did, but right now, we don't need more war. We need time. Give us that." There was silence. Then her voice returned. "A human speaks to me with honor. Amusing, dangerous, but interesting." The pulse slowed. The light faded. The pod calmed. Jake stepped back, breathing hard. The shield flickered. The Void Seeker's drones had begun drilling through. Valora activated a beacon. "I just called an escape route. My people hid a vessel beneath this town long ago. It will answer to the royal mark." Jake grinned. "Great. Where is it?" She looked at the floor. "Under your house." Jake blinked. "Of course it is." Zeria stood, weak but ready. "Let's go." They gathered the pods, grabbed tools, and moved fast. Outside, the Void Seeker was breaking through, but before the shield collapsed, Jake and the others vanished into the tunnel beneath his home, toward a ship no human had ever touched. Behind them, the Seeker scanned the empty garage. His red eyes narrowed. Earth has changed. Hunters from the stars. The tunnel beneath Jake's home was dark, cold, and filled with dust that hadn't moved in centuries. But as soon as Jake stepped in, glowing lines lit up along the walls, symbols similar to the ones on the pods. The ground beneath their feet buzzed faintly, like the tunnel itself recognized the bond in Jake's hand. "It's responding to you," Valora said as they hurried down the ancient path. This place was built for the chosen, for the day when the last bondholder returned. Jake gave a nervous laugh. "You keep saying chosen. I was just some guy looking for cheap junk at the market." Zeria, still limping slightly, looked at him. Perhaps fate hides in the smallest moments. Rusty stayed close to Jake's side, occasionally sniffing the walls. Even the dog seemed to feel something important was waiting below. Behind them, far above, the Void Seeker finished scanning the empty workshop. His mechanical drones flew in widening circles, searching for heat, Energy. Anything unusual? He paused. The dust around one corner of the floor was disturbed, just slightly. He turned his gaze downward and began to dig. Down in the tunnel, the group finally reached a large metal door. It was smooth and shaped like a circle, with ancient carvings that pulsed blue as Jake approached. A circular panel slid out from the wall. It had the same symbol that glowed on Jake's palm. "Place your hand," Valora said, "and speak. Let the ship know you're here." Jake hesitated. "What if it doesn't like my voice?" Zeria smiled faintly. "Then it will kill you quickly." Jake looked at her. "That's not funny." Valora raised an eyebrow. She wasn't joking. Jake sighed, placed his hand on the panel, and said softly, "Oh, hi. I guess I'm the new bondholder. Please don't kill me." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the metal door made a deep rumbling sound and began to split apart. As it opened, a glowing light spilled out. Beyond the door was a hidden hangar, filled with fog and shimmering technology. At the center stood a sleek ancient spacecraft, like a cross between a blade and a bird. Its wings were folded, but the whole thing looked alive, pulsing with faint light. Zeria exhaled. The Aetherwing. It survived. Valora nodded. Arthelian's final escape vessel, programmed to protect the royal legacy. "And now, it's yours, Jake." Jake blinked. "Mine. I can't even parallel park." Suddenly, alarms echoed from the tunnel behind them. Lena spun around. "They found us." Red lights flickered on the tunnel walls. The sound of clanking metal feet grew louder. The Void Seeker had entered, but he wasn't alone. Two more figures followed him, smaller, sleeker, Void Scouts, designed to move fast and slice through resistance. Jake turned to Valora. "We can't outrun them." "No," she said calmly, "but we can hold them." For a moment, Zeria turned to Jake, her eyes serious. "Take the ship. You and Lena must get the pods out of here. Protect them. Protect her, if Naira wakes in the wrong hands." Jake shook his head. "I'm not leaving you two behind." Valora stepped forward and placed something in his hand, a small crystal orb. "This will guide the ship. Plug it into the core once you're inside. It knows where to go." The noise from the tunnel got louder. Sparks burst from the walls. The enemy was almost here. Zeria placed her hand on Jake's shoulder. "Go. That's an order." Jake nodded slowly, grabbed Lena's hand, and ran up the ramp into the ship. Inside, the vessel lit up automatically. Smooth panels moved as they walked. A voice, calm and female, spoke in English. "Royal bond confirmed. Aetherwing is now active." Jake ran to the control panel. "Okay, girl, let's fly." He slammed the orb into the core. The entire ship came to life. Outside, Zeria and Valora stood side by side as the Void Seekers entered the hangar. "You are not permitted here," Zeria said, raising her sword. The Void Seeker pointed a weapon at her. "Royal lines are broken. The code will be restored. The sleeper must rise." Valora whispered, "Then we shall fall first." And they charge. Inside the Aetherwing, the ship lifted off with a soft hum. Jake looked back through the rear screen as red lights exploded behind them. Blasts, flashes, shadows moving. Lena sat beside the pods, watching the third one closely. "Jake," she said slowly, "the dark pod is glowing again." He turned. Naira's pod pulsed with golden red light. Her voice echoed again, soft, pleased. "So much chaos, so much fire. My sisters fight. You, fly." Jake stared at the pod. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "No," she whispered inside his mind. "You are my key. You are. Interesting." The ship broke through the ceiling of the underground hangar, shooting into the Martian sky like a blade through darkness. Behind them, the Void Seekers roared. Ahead of them, the stars waited. The Third Awakening. The Aetherwing sliced through the Martian sky, heading into orbit like it had done it 1,000 times before. But this time, it wasn't royal soldiers at the helm. It was Jake Carter, former space miner, part-time jump collector, full-time accidental guardian of alien queens. Beside him, Lena sat near the pods. Her eyes kept drifting to the third one, the one pulsing in strange, slow colors. Red, gold, then black, then nothing. The other two pods sat quiet. Zaria and Valora had stayed behind to fight the Void Seekers. Jake had seen the flashes before the hangar closed, and part of him feared they might not have made it out. "Don't think about that," Lena said, noticing his stare. "They bought us time. Don't waste it." Jake nodded, gripping the controls. The ship's voice spoke calmly. Long-range scans detecting pursuit. 2 enemy ships approaching from Mars' surface. Estimated contact, 4 minutes. Jake leaned forward. "Can this thing outrun them?" "Yes," the ship replied. "If the full energy core is unlocked." Jake frowned. "What does that mean?" The ship paused, then answered, "Naira's pod contains the final core crystal." Jake and Lena looked at each other. "Of course it does," Jake muttered. Naira's pod sat still, but it was no longer silent. The pulse inside had changed. It wasn't a heartbeat. It was something older, heavier, like a storm trying to remember how to breathe. Jake approached it slowly. "I know you're in there." He placed his hand on the surface. A warm pulse ran up his arm. And then, she opened her eyes. Not slowly, not gently, like lightning ripping open a dark sky. Her eyes were unlike Zuria's or Valora's. One was gold. The other, a deep void black. "Hello, Jake Carter," her voice whispered into his mind. He stumbled back. "You know my name." "I know more than that. I know your fear. I know your anger. I know your curiosity." The pod unlocked with a sharp hiss. Steam poured out. Naira stepped out like a goddess waking from a dream. Her armor was darker than space, but shimmered with energy that moved across her body like living liquid. Her hair flowed in strands of shadow and silver, and her presence was terrifying and beautiful at once. Lena aimed a scanner at her, but it short-circuited instantly. Naira's eyes turned to Jake. "You are the one who called me. Not with words, but with fire." I felt it. The fight. The chaos. Jake stepped in front of Lena. "I didn't call you. I tried to stop you from waking." She smirked. "You tried. And yet, here I am." The ship's warning voice returned. "Enemy ships approaching. Firing range in 60 seconds. Jake turned to Naira. "The ship needs something from your pod to escape. A crystal core. Please." Naira tilted her head. "You wish to escape. But do you wish to win?" Jake paused. "Right now, I just want to survive." Naira walked past him, toward the front of the ship. The walls seemed to react to her presence, lighting up with stronger color, brighter light. She placed her palm on the ship's command core. It glowed red. The entire ship vibrated as something ancient clicked into place. "Final core engaged. Aetherwing at full power," the ship announced. Jake ran to the pilot's seat. "Hang on." With a deafening hum, the Aetherwing's wings spread wide and tilted. The engine roared to life with golden light. Then it shot forward, faster than Jake thought possible. Behind them, the enemy ships fired. Too late. The blasts hit empty space. They were gone. Inside the ship, silence returned. Jake turned to Naira. "Thank you." She didn't respond. Instead, she stared out the window, at the stars. "You're kind," she said softly. "Still small, still loud, but you changed." Jake walked beside her. "What do you mean?" She turned to him. "The humans we once knew, before the fall, were wild, violent. But you carry something strange. You fight without knowing why. You protect without reason. Even your fear, is noble. Jake swallowed. We try. Naira's eyes studied his face. You are not ready for what's coming. Then teach me, Jake said. She raised an eyebrow. I'm serious, he continued. Everyone keeps saying I'm the chosen one or something. Fine. If that's true, then don't just talk about danger. Prepare me for it. Naira's face hardened. You may regret asking. Jake held her gaze. Maybe. But I'd rather regret it than be useless. Lena interrupted. We've got another problem. She showed the screen, Earth's orbit. A massive energy spike was appearing near the moon. Naira's eyes narrowed. They followed us through the shadows. Jake pointed. Who are they? Naira's voice dropped. The Void Lords, the ones behind the Seekers. They felt my awakening. Now they're coming. Jake stepped back. To Earth. Yes, she said. To finish what they started. And to claim me. Lena looked horrified. What do we do? Naira turned slowly. We prepare Earth for war. Rise of humanity. The stars above Earth looked calm. But beneath that silence, war was coming. The Void Lords, ancient hunters of forgotten galaxies, had followed the signal of the awakened pod. Their ships, dark as shadows and cold as dead space, were entering orbit, slowly, silently, like spiders crawling across the stars. Inside the Aetherwing, Jake stood at the center of the control deck, staring at the screen. You weren't joking, he said. They really followed us here. Naira didn't smile. She simply nodded, her eyes locked on the incoming fleet. I warned you, she said. They will come for me, but they will take everything else with them. Earth, Mars, the moon, all life. Jake looked at her, then at Lena, then at the two hibernation pods still sleeping. Zaria and Valora had risked their lives to protect him, to buy time. Now he had to decide how to use it. Lena placed a hand on his shoulder. What do we do, Jake? He swallowed hard. We don't run. They landed the Aetherwing just outside Earth's orbit and sent a secure signal to Earth's Global Defense Network, GDN. It took less than 10 minutes for Earth's leaders to respond. At first, no one believed them. Then Naira stepped into the view of the cameras. The signal went quiet. A moment later, a military officer replied, We're listening. Within hours, Earth's major defense stations were on high alert. Fighter ships were launched. Orbital satellites turned their weapons outward. For the first time in 100 years, every country agreed on one thing: protect the planet. But Jake knew Earth's tech wasn't enough. Naira, he said, can we fight them? She nodded. With help. She turned to the console and activated a glowing star map. Before our fall, Arthelion built vaults on several worlds. Hidden warriors, sleeping ships, locked knowledge. I can wake them, but I need a strong broadcast in time. Jake grinned. I can get you both. Back on Earth, Jake and Lena were escorted to GDN HQ, where top generals and scientists met with them. You're saying this girl is from another galaxy, one general said, and she brought war to our doorstep. Jake stepped forward. No, we woke her up, yes, but the war was coming either way. She's not the danger. She's our only chance. Naira entered the room. The walls seemed to dim. All eyes turned. I am not your weapon, she said calmly, but I will be your sword if you stand with me. There was silence. Then the general nodded. Then let's sharpen the blade. Naira and Lena worked together to build a massive signal array, combining alien and human tech. The broadcast would reach deep into space, waking ancient Arthelion systems, calling for aid. Jake led the defense planning. He wasn't a soldier, but his instincts, courage, and connection to the pods made people listen. People called him the Bonded One. He hated the title, but he wore it anyway. Days passed. The Void Lords drew closer. Then they arrived. A fleet of shadow ships appeared in Earth's orbit, blocking sunlight like a spreading eclipse. Their energy readings were off the charts. And at their center, a creature stepped forward. Not mechanical, not alive, something in between. Naira's face went cold. It's him. Who? Jake asked. Vakor. He was once my general. He betrayed us, helped the lords find Arthelion. He killed our queen. And now, he's come to finish the job. Jake looked up. Not today. The first blast came from space. Earth's defense cannons fired back. Fighters zoomed into the sky. War had begun. But Earth's ships weren't strong enough. The Void Lords were centuries ahead. Then, the signal array lit up. A golden pulse spread across space, and from the void, they answered. One by one, ancient Arthelian vessels appeared, sleek, glowing ships with curved wings and powerful weapons. The lost fleet had awakened. Inside one of them, Zeria. In another, Vylora. They were alive. And they brought an army. Zeria's voice rang over comms. Nice to see you still alive, Jake. Jake laughed. Took you long enough. The battle turned. Human ships and alien vessels fought side by side. Lasers cut through shadow. Drones exploded in golden light. Earth fought not as a weak world, but as a united one. Jake, flying the Aetherwing, targeted Vakor's command ship. I've got him in sight, he said. Naira stepped beside him. Then let me finish what he started. She activated the core. The ship glowed white. Then, it split into 3 pieces, each one controlled by energy from Jake's mark. The Aetherwing became a storm. They charged. Vakor's ship fired, but the Aetherwing danced around it. Jake aimed. Naira whispered, now. And they fired. A beam of light, stronger than any cannon, tore through Vakor's ship. It exploded silently. The Void Lords broke. Their fleet scattered. Earth was safe. After the battle, the world celebrated. Humans had fought beside alien queens. Old wounds had been healed. New friendships had begun. Naira stood on a high platform, watching Earth's skies. Jake joined her. You didn't destroy us, he said. She looked at him. You surprised me. That doesn't happen often. He smiled. So, what now? She turned her gaze to the stars. There are more vaults to find, more threats to stop. You're bonded now, Jake Carter. You're part of something bigger. Jake looked up, and he knew. The $1 box wasn't the beginning of a mistake. It was the start of a legend.